Hello and welcome to the Temple Mount Podcast. I'm Shogun, and this is another episode in our ongoing series of World of Darkness role-playing game sessions. You can find all of those on YouTube and BitChute, Temple Mount Official Podcast, and you can join us on the Temple Mount Discord server and join the campaign yourself. That being said, welcome back Shad Viano-Ferrath of host Premier, Nash Westergaard of host Gangrel, Kaelin Clark of host Ventru, and beautiful Dude Missile of the Changeling Puka people. Today we're going to start with a Bible verse, as we always do.
But these people blaspheme all that they do not understand, and they are destroyed by all that they, like unreasoning animals, understand instinctively. Woe to them, for they have walked in the way of Cain, and abandoned themselves for the sake of gain to Balaam's error, and perished in Korah's rebellion. These are hidden reefs at your love feasts, as they feast with you without fear. Shepherds feeding themselves, waterless clouds, swept along by wind, fruitless trees in late autumn, twice dead, uprooted.
Crazy how different the verse reads when you interpret it from the point of view of the lore of World of Darkness, the walking in the way of Cain and being twice dead, etc. Very cool. That being said, we're going to start today with our friend Sid Rogers. Hi, Sid. So, you realize that you have been wandering for an unknown period of time, and you sort of come to your senses in the present moment, and you are in a beautiful pasture-like field of meadow with like flowers and grass, and the sun is shining. It's a beautiful day, and the whole meadow is full of butterflies of all different colors. Some of them are flying around, a lot of them are perched on the flowers, and they're all different colors: purples, blues, monarchs, everything. And stretching in front of you is a pleasant footpath leading over what look like some gentle hills. And unsurprisingly to you, in the distance you see a familiar face, a familiar friend, a small albino bunny with pink eyes and pinkish fur, who as usual seems to be waiting for you, or possibly leading you towards some unknown destiny.
Okay, so can you explain the... Sorry, my internet was derping out for a second. Can you explain I get the bunny and all that, but can you explain where I am?
Well, you don't know exactly where you are because you just sort of came to in this moment and realized that you're walking in a field, like a meadow. You don't recognize it, but it's a very pleasant meadow, and it's like a green, grassy field.
Okay, I will approach my bunny friend.
Alright, so for the first time, the bunny does not recede in the distance or hop away from your approach, but waits patiently until it is sitting right by your feet.
I will try to pet the bunny. Gently.
The bunny seems to receive your patting with affection and kind of turns its head into your hand and allows you to stroke it, and it is very soft.
Yay. Okay, so I'm gonna stop petting the bunny and just take a look around.
So all you can see in front of you is the footpath stretching over a couple more hills in the meadow, but in the distance you see like a little puff of like rising white smoke, possibly from a campfire or a chimney or something like that, just from over the next hill.
I will try and find the source of the smoke.
Alright, so as you walk in the direction of the smoke, the little pink bunny hops along at your feet, staying right beside you like a humble companion. You press to the next hill, and you get a view over the next little valley, and you see a strange little circular cabin of sorts, but it's like a squat-looking structure made out of like clay. It seems to have been like baked together in like a fairly crude and fairly small little like cabin that has like a little door hole, and there's smoke rising out of the chimney. It's about, 20 feet in front of you.
I'm gonna knock on the door, I think.
You walk up to the door and knock on the wooden door and rap 3 times, and you hear like a cursing, grumbling sound inside, and then the door opens, and you see like a strange creature about 4 feet tall, with like reddish skin, yellow eyes, a pointed black cap, and little tusky fangs poking out of its bottom jaw. Something like you might imagine a goblin or a hobgoblin from a children's story, but you're not sure what this creature is. But he looks at you and the bunny with like a combination of surprise and some kind of amusement, and he kind of laughs and he says, "Puka, what are you doing here?"
And I say, I think I'm dreaming or something. I don't know. I didn't really come here willingly or consciously.
He laughs and says, "Dreaming? Huh. Sleeping, I don't think you are."
So is this place like a real place, like that's separate from my conscious experience? Is that what's going on?
So the little creature reaches out and pinches your arm with sharp little claws, and it's like quite painful, and leaves like a bloody little prick in your hand, and he says, "Real? You tell me."
Yeah, this seems real. So who are you? And do you like, is this where you live? In this forest or whatever?
He says, "I live in this hut. My name is Grendel. What is your name?"
My name is Sid. Nice to meet you, Grundle.
He laughs and says, "Is it? Ha! Why?"
Did you say why or lie?
He said, "Why?"
I guess my parents must have named me that. That seems to be how it goes for most people.
He nods and says, "Wait here. I have a present for you." And then he goes back into his cottage and starts like rummaging around in something. Then a moment later, he turns back at you really quickly and throws something at your face. You can't quite see what it is, but it's like he throws something directly at your face.
I'm gonna try and catch it.
Okay, so he's gonna... Okay, well, if you're gonna try and catch it, just roll dexterity plus athletics.
Okay, so I'm rolling dexterity then. 9-2.
All right, so you reactively catch the object he threw at you, and you succeed in doing so, only to realize that it is a very foul-smelling brown sticky substance, which you actually recognize as feces, which you have now caught in your hands. And seeing this, Grendel begins laughing hysterically, as though this is the funniest joke in the world.
I say, I guess what I do is I drop it. I try to get it out of my hands. You saw it before, and I say, "Are you the king? Are you the big stink I've heard so much about?"
He laughs and says, "Big stink, little stink." Shrugs. Says, "Don't know what you're talking about."
Okay, I try to wipe my hands on the grass.
Okay, you wipe the goblin feces off your hands on the grass. You manage to get most of it off, but there's like a lingering smell.
Okay, so I say, "Well, it was nice meeting you, Grundle, but I'm going to go now."
He laughs again and says, "Suit yourself. Don't come back." Slams the door.
Okay. I look down at the little bunny. I say, "Do you know anywhere we could go? Do you know anywhere that's interesting?"
So the bunny looks up in your eyes and seems to have like a strange intelligence or understanding, and it actually nods its head and then turns around, shakes its tail, and starts hopping away off of the path towards a tree line in the distance.
I follow it.
So within about 5 minutes, and somehow time seems kind of strange. You can't tell. Some moments feel like they're going on for a long period of time, and then there'll be kind of like almost like a flash, and you'll find yourself farther forward than you expected. It's like a strange way, almost like you're underwater, but there's no water. Things are kind of wavy. But anyway, you soon find yourself at the edge of a forest line, like of trees. And the trees closest to you are relatively small with like green leaves, but as you look ahead, the forest, there's long shadows, and the forest gets darker as you look farther in.
And I look down at the bunny and say, "You sure this is safe?"
The bunny kind of looks at you and turns its head to the side and then shakes its head left and right like saying no, but then it just turns and starts hopping into the forest.
Okay, I guess we're going on a little adventure, you and I continue to follow it.
All right, so you follow the hopping rabbit through the woodlands, and it gets deeper and darker, and there starts being more like evergreen trees, and pretty soon it's like a primordial forest with like really large trees that are so thick you couldn't wrap your arms around the trunk, stretching up so high that you can't see the tops of them and you can't see the sky. It's just all a canvas of green overhead, and you're in the shadows, weaving your way through the trees when you start to hear like a very strange, beautiful, but eerie, otherworldly music that you've never heard anything like it before. It's like, on the one hand, very like intriguing and enticing, but on the other hand, you get kind of like a creepy feeling when you hear it because it sounds like alien sort of or strange.
I look down at the bunny and I say, "Are these the elusive machine elves?"
The bunny kind of just crinkles its nose at you and twitches its ear, and then kind of looks in the direction of the music and then looks back at you.
Okay, I approach the music.
So as you begin to approach the music and it gets slightly louder, you also start to hear laughter, but it's like a very like high-pitched sort of laughter. It sounds kind of metallic almost. And you also begin to see orbs of light floating in the air and kind of bobbing and weaving in the trees and slowly moving in the direction of the music, almost as though they're like guiding you towards it. Each of the orbs is about the size of like a baseball.
Okay, hang on. Let me see if I can do some magic here. See if there's anything. Okay, I'm thinking like I want to try and do something to like see if I can scout ahead or anything.
Well, you could
maybe-
roll like a stealth roll if you want to like sneak up and get a look at what's going on.
What's the stat for that? Is that a skill?
It's a skill called stealth, but you can roll like dexterity plus stealth.
Ooh, okay, I have a 5 in stealth, so I get to roll a 7. Okay, forgot I did that. Okay, roll.
Nice.
Oh. Okay, I got a 6, a 4, a 5, a 5, a 9, a 4, and a 6.
Okay, so with your almost preternatural levels of stealthiness, you sneak up like a small woodland animal, using the bushes and trees as cover in order to get a look at the source of the music. And what you see is a clearing that opens up in the woods with like a glade of sorts, and all around in a perfect circle are very similar trees. They're very beautiful trees that seem to have silver leaves that are shimmering even though there's no wind. They're moving like there's a wind blowing through them. And then in the center of the clearing, there's a series of wooden tables set up which are just completely overloaded with delicious looking food. There's like bunches of grapes, glasses and bottles of wine, and like beautiful glass decanters, baked goods, roasted meat that's steaming. You can smell the food. And there's also a number of very beautiful people, or at least you think they're people, but they're kind of tall and thin and have very like angular features on their faces and very large eyes and pointed ears. And they are either sitting and eating or dancing or talking to each other while drinking wine. Some of them are singing, some of them are playing instruments, and that's where the music is coming from. But they're like instruments you've never seen before. They look kind of like elaborate harps and lyres. And anyways, there's also a bunch of these orbs of light floating around the circle as though giving light to the party.
Is there anyone who sort of looks like the sort of archetypical image of the Mad Hatter?
You look around and you don't see anyone who matches the archetypical description of the Mad Hatter. What you do notice is that there is a man and a woman, or at least a male and a female, sitting on large, elaborately carved wooden chairs that are kind of like thrones, and they're kind of looking at the whole party as though they are the hosts, and both of them are wearing like silver crowns on their heads that are like very delicately made.
Okay, and I sort of whisper to the rabbit, I think I'm gonna regret this, but here we go. And then I approach the party and I say, hello, what's going on?
So, to your surprise, you are greeted with like an eruption of laughter, applause, and like welcomes, and everybody kind of cheers like they were either expecting you or that it's a pleasant surprise that you've arrived. But everybody's like clapping and smiling, and the people on the thrones are like looking at you and smiling, and like they look very like radiant, and everybody's just like, "Hey!" like a party.
And I say, it's nice to meet you all. What are we doing here?
One of the women closest to you, who has like long silver hair, the same color as the leaves on the tree, and this is like gestures you over to the table, and it's like, eat, drink, celebrate with us. It's a beautiful evening, and the celebrations have just begun. You've arrived just in time.
Okay, what's? I look for like something. See if they maybe have any like cookies or anything like sweet sort of pastry type things.
Yeah, there's like everything you can imagine. There's like whole silver trays that are just overloaded with like cinnamon buns with frosting and cakes and cookies and like basically everything you can imagine.
Okay, I get a cinnamon bun with frosting.
All right, you take a cinnamon bun off the tray, and the woman presses a glass into your hand, or at least offers you one that has like wine in it.
Ooh, wait. And then I before I eat the cinnamon bun or take the glass, I say, hang on, isn't there something about, like, you know, if you meet fairies, you're not supposed to eat anything they offer you?
She smiles at you with like a bemused look on her face and says, why would you not eat? There's nothing better under heaven than to eat and drink and be merry. Surely you've had a long journey, and you may have a long journey ahead. Why not fill your stomach and enjoy the fruits of the night?
And I sort of reluctantly, not trusting this situation, but also it does look like a good cinnamon bun, so I start to consume the drink and the some of the food.
It is not only a good cinnamon bun, but it is easily the best cinnamon bun, not only that you've ever had, but that you imagine could ever exist. It is literally the perfect cinnamon bun, and it is just insanely delicious. And likewise, the wine tastes like way better than any wine that you've ever had. And even as soon as you have like a sip of it, my cat is climbing away with my headphones, sorry. As soon as you have a sip of it, you feel like sort of like an electric sensation go down your throat. And everything becomes even more detailed and beautiful than it was before. And
wait. Are we talking in like a sort of DMT kind of way where it's like it looks?
Imagine the visual effects of like a microdose of DMT or like a low dose of magic mushrooms.
Okay,
in Minecraft. So yeah, things begin to take on a sort of psychedelic sheen, even more than they already had, and it seems suddenly that the night is falling preternaturally fast. You could have sworn it was only a few minutes ago that it was broad daylight in the meadow, and yet all of a sudden it's gone from evening to twilight to dark in like what seems like only 30 seconds or so. And now you can see stars in the sky through the trees, which you couldn't see before. And they're very bright stars, and you also notice they don't look like the stars that you've seen on Earth. Like, they're in different configurations.
Mm-hmm.
In any case, the music and the celebration and the festivities continue, and people get up and start dancing and unwinding even more. And the, very beautiful, tall, thin, elegant woman who first introduced you to the table comes up to you and asks you to dance, and kind of goes to like take your hands and like dance with you.
I take her hand and I say, sure, but what did you guys put in the wine? This is some weird wine.
She laughs and says, it is the finest vintage in the forest. Nothing but the best for the king and queen and the celebrants. But come, the night is young. Let us dance.
Can I roll dexterity plus performance to see how well I dance?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
It will also be dependent on your description of the dance you're doing.
Okay, so I'm thinking sort of something maybe a little bit Gaelic, right? Sort of like a like white people dancing, but very skilled white people dancing, like a river dance sort of thing, you know?
All right, so you attempt to do a white person dance. Sorry, a white person dance.
I got a
Gaelic
3 and a
dance.
10. Yeah.
You get a critical success, so you don't know if it's the wine or the beautiful girl, but you seem to have your moves on point, and you are dancing very well, and she seems to be enjoying the dance with you. And her dance moves are very strange. You've never seen a person dance like this. She does a lot of like twirling around and like strange motions, almost like ballet. But nevertheless, the two of you are dancing, and many other of these, characters, I mean, they have pointed ears, so we'll call them elves, for lack of a better word, are dancing around as well. And as you lose yourself in the dance, there's sort of like a time stretch or a time slip phenomenon that happens. And you begin to sort of lose sense of time and go into like this strange timeless moment. And you're just dancing and dancing and dancing. And then you wake up and you find yourself lying face down in the grass, and all around you is a circle of mushrooms that's grown out of the ground, and you're in the middle of like a circle of mushrooms that's grown up around you, but you're still in the same glade, but all of the tables and food and everything are gone, and it's now like broad daylight and like mid-afternoon.
Am I in the real world again?
Well, you're still in the same glade that you were in when you fell asleep. So it's the same trees with silver leaves, the same circular clearing, but the elves are gone and the food is gone, and you have a strange sense that a long period of time has passed, but you don't know how long because you've just woken up. You also feel very rested and refreshed and like good.
And I sort of look around and I call, hey, Bunny, you around here?
So it's only about 10 seconds before the bunny hops out of the edge of the clearing with some like 4-leaf clovers in its mouth that it's like chewing up, and hops over to your side. You can also you can add a point of glamour to your glamour
sweet.
pool, because it seems that the night's festivities and food have left you with some kind of enchanted feeling, and a little bit of that like beautiful sheen on everything still remains, even though the wine is worn off. You think?
Okay, so give me a point of glamour. Okay, sweet, I got a lot of glamour now. I can do a lot of spells. Okay, so I look at the bunny, I say, oh, you're gonna have really lucky bowels if you keep eating those things. Well, I'll tell you what, Mr. Bunny, that definitely could have gone worse. I feel great.
The bunny looks at you, and you're not sure if it's in your mind, but it appears to smile in a like almost human way, with the edges of its like mouth, curling up in a way that looks uncannily like a smile, which you're not sure ordinary bunnies could do. But anyways, it kind of wiggles its tail, and you get the impression that it is happy that you are happy.
Yay. And so I say to the bunny, what next then?
So the bunny kind of runs in a little circle, and then it turns towards the forest, hops over the ring of mushrooms without touching any of them, and starts heading back into the woods, further and deeper into the woods.
And I look at the ring of Detravors, and I say, is it too soon? What do they look like?
The mushrooms, they are all of varying heights. They're quite large, probably 3-4 times bigger than ordinary mushrooms that you've seen. They're in a thick cluster in a perfect circle, and most of them have like golden reflective caps on them, but there's also other ones that are other colors, like purple and blue mixed in.
Ooh, okay, so I don't know if you know this trivia, but I'm going to do this, and I'll explain the trivia piece to you. So the way you can tell if something's a psilocybin mushroom is you pick it and then you try to bruise it, and if it bruises blue, like a bluish purple kind of color, then you know it's safe to eat, and then it's not a look-alike. So I'm going to... I mean, does it look like it's been cultivated intentionally? Does this look like someone's garden or something?
Well, actually, this is a real phenomenon that happens in the real world, where mushrooms grow in a circle overnight, and traditionally it's called a fairy ring, because the mythology was that it was left behind by fairies dancing in a circle.
Okay,
So-
well, I'm not in that case. I'm not gonna. Can we assume I've maybe read that because I have 3 in Greymire? Like,
Yep,
I'm just
you
saying,
read that, but you
Okay.
also recognize that these do look like psilocybin mushrooms, at least the golden capped ones. You can't. The
Okay.
ones that are blue and purple don't look like any mushrooms you've ever seen before. They're like very bizarre looking. But the
Okay.
gold ones are pretty obviously psilocybin mushrooms.
So I'm gonna sit in the circle, and I'm just gonna
Okay.
wait and see if anything happens. And then if nothing happens, I will eat them. The magic ones.
So you just sit down in the middle of the circle.
Yeah, seeing if anything happens.
So you hear birds singing, and it's very peaceful, and you kind of fall into like a meditative trance. And you hear something kind of crashing around, not crashing around, but stepping on twigs and branches in the bushes, something relatively large that seems to be coming in your direction.
I look around. I try to see. I look to the direction of the sound.
You can't see anything yet, but you can still hear something moving around there. It sounds like, you're not sure what, maybe some kind of wildlife, but nothing appears to happen with the circle of mushrooms.
Okay, I'll pick the edible ones.
All right, you gather up a gathering of the psilocybin mushrooms and put them in a bag or pocket. They leave
And-
like a...
And then I'm gonna try and find a place to hide.
Okay. Well, there's plenty of places to hide, including large trees, so we'll assume you run and hide behind a large tree.
Okay.
So you hide and remain perfectly still with your very high stealth skill. And you wait as the sound gets a little bit closer, and then you see the head of a horse come out, but it has on its head a long, spiraling white horn, and it's quite obviously a unicorn. And it steps out into the clearing, and it's like very beautiful animal, like a beautiful horse.
Yeah, so I'm going to not in like a trying to approach it kind of way, but in like a I'm gonna like step out into its field of vision, but at a distance, and just like wave at it as if to say, like, I'm not a threat. I'm not entering your personal bubble, right? But also trying to make it aware that I'm here.
So as you step out from behind the tree, the unicorn looks at you directly in the eyes, and it has like extremely like intelligent, like wise looking, blue eyes, and it's like staring at you. The unicorn is all white, like spotless white, and it looks at you without any evident fear, more with like curiosity or maybe expectation. It doesn't move.
Do I want to offer the pony a mushroom? I mean, it's a magical creature. Yeah, I put a couple in like my hand with my fingers held out flat. You know how you feed a horse, right? Like in that sort of hand position, so that it doesn't bite your fingers off. And then I reach out my hand and I sort of start to approach it.
It keeps perfect eye contact with you as you approach and shows no fear until you get close and you hold the handful of magic mushrooms out in front of it, and it looks at you for a moment more and then eats the mushrooms out of your hand like a horse eating oats and consumes them entirely.
Okay.
And then licks your hand.
I'm then going to take some out of my pocket, some of the ones I don't. I'm gonna take some of the whatever I had left and then eat them all.
All right, so you eat the mushrooms, and the one thing you notice is that they do not taste bad. They actually taste like good and different than you remember them tasting if you've ever had them in waking life. But they taste more like fruit snacks than mushrooms. But you eat them. Yeah.
Okay.
But you eat them. And in any case, the unicorn kind of like nuzzles you with its head as though saying thank you.
I laugh and I sort of pet its cheek and say, "Oh, you're a beautiful thing, you are."
Okay, so this is a personal question about your character, but is your character a virgin?
I'm gonna say no.
Okay. So in any case, the unicorn is just standing there with you and looking at you, and you notice its pupils seem to be like extremely large now, as though the mushrooms have already kicked in, and the unicorn is now tripping balls. And again, that in your normal experience, mushrooms take much longer to come on, but you feel them coming on very strongly, like as soon as you eat them almost. So, everything starts this time really changing colors and morphing, and the trees have like a liquid appearance, almost like everything's like a pastel painting. And the unicorn kind of looks at you and turns and starts walking into the woods in the same direction that the rabbit was going. And the rabbit is like following after and looking back at you like, come on, let's keep up with the unicorn.
Okay, I'll follow after the unicorn and the pink bunny. God damn, this is quite the fantastical scenario I found myself in.
Well, that's a matter of opinion, I suspect. A matter of perspective. But that being said, you follow the unicorn and the pink rabbit deeper into the woods. Again, it's daytime, so the sun is shining, but it's only coming through as like dappled shadows or whatever. And you weave your way through the forest until you come to a river. And across the river is a bridge. And on the other side of the bridge is what looks like a small castle, like a fort with battlements and towers and a gate. But it's on the other side of the river and up a hill. And there's still trees around, but it's sort of a clearing.
So what does this castle look like? Is it like a normal, like, medieval Europe kind of castle, or does it have...
Yeah, it's made out of gray stone. It has battlements. It is not like a huge castle, but it's not small either. And it has a tower at each of its four corners. And it's made in a rectangular configuration with a gatehouse in the middle. And a path is like leading up to it.
What are battlements?
Battlements are the little indented things on the top of walls that archers shoot out from between.
Oh, okay, yeah. I guess I approach the castle with the unicorn and the bunny.
So the unicorn crosses ahead of you and the bunny, but as you make it about a third of the way across the bridge, you know, hear like a thumping sound, and all of a sudden like a large creature or person with like green scaly kind of skin or like craggy looking skin comes out from under the bridge, and it's like walking sort of on its knuckles of its hands, so it's kind of like not crawling or walking, but kind of like hopping sort of, and using its knuckles like a gorilla sort of, and it's quite like muscular looking, and it comes out from under the bridge, splashes through the river on the far side, and intercepts you to block your way across.
So what is it? It's like a monkey? It's like an ape? Like
Well, all you know is it's like a heavily built, like bipedal humanoid thing with like greenish skin. And it's got like a ugly face with like tusks and you know, like beady little eyes. And it's quite large, like not as big as a gorilla, but similar in its like body proportions.
So I say to it like, "Hey, I'm not trying to trespass or anything if I'm not allowed here, but what is this place?"
Bridge. It says bridge, and then it puts its hand out and says toll.
Ooh, do I have anything in my inventory?
Do you have a bag with you?
Yeah, he's got like a backpack.
Well, what's in it?
Just like some art supplies. What was the other thing I had in there? I had art supplies, maybe like a snack or two, like a Snickers or something. I give him a Snickers.
You give him a Snickers bar?
Yes.
He looks at it with like confusion in his eyes, and then he kind of like smacks it on the ground 3 times, and then like looks at you with confusion, like he doesn't understand what it is.
So
did you unwrap it, or was it?
Yeah, wrapped? I unwrapped it.
Okay. All right. Well, he grabs it out of your hand and immediately like scarfs it down.
Can I go through now?
I guess he accepts your toll and scurries back under the bridge.
I sort of take a mental note, and I say to the rabbit, I guess bridge trolls like chocolate, so maybe I should always keep some on hand in case I run across another bridge troll.
The rabbit looks at you with an inscrutable, expression, and then turns back towards the unicorn in the castle.
Okay. I approach the castle.
All right. As you approach the castle, a knight in like shining armor comes striding through and says out of the gate and like stands in your way and with like a sword and a shield in his hand and says, "Who goes there?"
Hello. Is this the dreaming? Are we in the dreaming?
He looks at you with perplexion and like he's got like a visor up on his helmet and he's like, "You don't know where you are?"
I sort of end up in this place every now and again when I go to bed, but I don't really know what it is, no.
He says, "This is the forest of Andarian, and the kingdom of Andarian, and the territory of Andarian. What brings you to this place?"
Well, I ended up in in that forest over there, and I point back the way we came. I just sort of woke up there, and there's some party with a bunch of elves, and then I had some food, I had some drink, and then time moved really fast, and then when I woke up, they were all gone, and this rabbit and this unicorn led me here, so I decided to follow them.
He takes in the sight of you and the unicorn and your story, and he goes, "You are fey-touched. The queen will want to speak with you. Come with me."
Okay, and then I follow him.
So you follow the knight into the castle, into a courtyard, and there's some people that appear to be villagers with bread stands and various markets and so forth. It's like a medieval looking market, sort of. There's some kids running around playing with a ball. Anyways, he leads you through the town square and up a flight of big stone stairs into an inner keep, which is a castle, whatever they call it, the inner keep, a big tower in the middle of the courtyard. He leads you up a flight of stairs that are all covered in red carpet and into the courtroom of what is obviously a queen, who is an older woman. She looks like she's probably about 50 years old, and she has a gold crown on her head and weird archaic curls. And she's got her face thickly painted with white makeup with really exaggerated red circles on the cheeks. She's got her hands on the throne and looking at you as you come in.
I wave and I say, "Hello."
The knight shouts out and announces your presence, and he says, announces you as Sid Rogers to the queen, a puka, fey-touched puka who has come to the kingdom of Andarian from he knows not where.
Oh, I know where from. I just don't know how I got here.
The queen looks at you and says, "If you know where, you should know how, as long as you also know when or why. But do you even know what?"
I went to sleep, and then I woke up in the forest back there.
She laughs and says, "Only a fool feasts with the fae under a full moon, unless, of course, you're fae yourself."
Well, I was thinking that would probably keep me safe. I have heard about that whole not eating fairy food or whatever thing, but I figured if I was a fairy, then it wouldn't really be an issue.
He says, as an offer of hospitality, I will grant you one boon. Whatever you ask for, if it is in my power, I will give it to you.
What would be in your power? That's a lot of decision anxiety right there.
She says, "Simply ask what your heart desires, and you will know what to ask of me."
Okay, wait, can I, okay. I think I know what I want. But I'm curious, are you capable of magic?
He laughs and says, "Try me."
Can you make me some sort of magic crystal cocoon that I can sleep in and go on dream adventures?
He seems to consider what you're saying, and she says, "That is beyond my power. But there is one in my kingdom who could perhaps help you with such a strange quest. The court wizard. He is not currently in attendance, for he is in meditation in his tower. But if you wish, I can introduce you to him. If he cannot help you, no one can."
Well, I would... And then he sort of stops for a second as if to process. Wait! You got a wizard? You got a wizard here? Awesome! And he raises his hands in a check out my guns, triumphant, huzzah kind of pose.
She smiles and says, "Oh yes, every king and queen has a court wizard, but ours is the best in all of the kingdom of Andarian. He knows the heavens and the earth and all the ways of the beasts and all of the magical, fey-touched workings of sorcery."
So are you Queen Andaria? Is the kingdom named after your family?
He says, "It is indeed my family's name, as we have ruled in this forest for many generations. I am Dahlia Andaria, but you may call me Your Majesty."
Well, and I say, well, Your Majesty, for the record, I love adventure. So if there's anything I can help you with in return, just feel free to ask.
He smiles and says, "Funny you should mention that. There is a custom in our kingdom that in return for a boon, a quest may be requested. And so after you speak to the wizard, I may have a favor to ask of you in return."
Okay, well, sure. Well, you want to get moving on that? Can you show me the wizard, and we can get this all started here?
She makes a gesture with her hand, and the knight who led you in with the shining armor gestures for you to follow. The unicorn has waited outside in the courtyard, but your rabbit is still by your feet. And he leads you out of the courtroom of the queen with her various courtiers and dilettantes that are around her, and up another long, very long spiral staircase that is lit by candles every, several steps, and also has many like gargoyles and fantastical carvings in the walls. And you lose track of how many times that you spiral up the staircase, but eventually you come to a wooden door. And on the wooden door is like a brass face of a lion and like a knocker.
I used the knocker. Oh, wait. Lion. I pet the lion and then I used the knocker.
So you knock 3 times, and all of a sudden the lion's face like animates, and its closed eyes open, and its mouth opens, and it begins to speak to you. And it asks you a riddle, which you may or may not have heard before. So the lion asks you, it says, "What walks on 4 legs by morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, and 3 legs at night?"
Say it again.
What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, and 3 legs at night?
4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, 3 legs at night.
Yeah, that's the riddle.
I'm not gonna Google this. I will just say I don't know.
So you say you don't know, and the lion's eyes close again, and its mouth closes again. The knight takes his leave of you and says, "I am not permitted to go within the wizard's chambers, but I will await you in the queen's courtroom." And he walks down the stairs.
I'll knock. No, I'm not. I'll knock one more time.
You knock again, and the lion opens its eyes again and opens its mouth again and asks you a different riddle. "What disappears when you say its name?" it asks you.
What disappears when you say its name? What disappears when you say its name? Give me a second. I'm trying to do some lateral thinking here. What disappears? Rumpelstiltskin?
The lion laughs and then closes his eyes and mouth again.
Okay, I'm gonna try one more time, then I'll give up.
You knock a 3rd time, and the lion opens its eyes and looks at you and asks another riddle, which is something along the lines of, "All in water, never drinking, all in mail, never clinking. What am I?"
Say it again.
All in water, never drinking, all in mail, never clinking. Like chainmail.
All in water, never drinking. Minerals?
The lion closes its eyes a 3rd time, and you hear a sound from inside the room coming towards the door, and the door opens, and there's like a man with like a long white beard and like a long purple robe and a really strange like square hat that's like 3 feet long, but like square and also made of like purple silk. It's like all dressed in purple silk with like elaborate details. It's like this really psychedelic robe, and also you're still tripping really hard. So like when you see this guy, he has like a crazy aura around him, like a rainbow, and he's like, just looks like absolutely like wild to you. And he's like, "For heaven's sakes, who keeps knocking at my door?"
Are you the wizard? I just want to say.
He says, "Of course I'm the wizard," and he kind of like extends his arms so you look at his like crazy outfit.
The queen sent me to see you, and also might I say you look absolutely majestic, good sir.
He says, "Oh, thank you, young gentleman, but the queen should know not to disturb me when I am in my meditations. The planet Spandoron is in conjunction with Pertincus, and it is a unique opportunity for me to observe the astral cloud dimension. So make it quick. What do you want?"
Well, is there maybe a time I could come back that would be a little bit more...
No. The only time is the present. For heaven's sakes, you're here now. Don't waste my time. What is it you want? Spit it out.
The queen said that you might be able to help me create a cocoon for myself out of crystal, wherein I can go on dream adventures.
He looks at you and says, crystal cocoon of transmogrification and dream travel. Very well, give me a moment. And he goes over to like his desk and starts like rummaging through like old spell books and stuff. And then he grabs like a really elaborate like golden staff that's leaning up against the wall and lights some incense and starts chanting some crazy spell. And as he's doing that, you see all these like glyphs and like complicated images like appearing in the air out of the smoke from the incense. It makes like a big circle around him. And then he turns around and like looks you in the eyes and like gestures for you to come over.
Okay, I walk over.
So you walk inside of
wait,
like the
one
circle.
second. One second. I gotta pass my mom the phone chart.
Okay.
Okay, I'm back.
All right, so you step inside of this like magic circle made of floating glyphs made of smoke with the wizard, and he takes a flask out of his desk that's like this crazy like bubbling blue potion with like steam rising out of the top, and he goes, "Drink this," and hands it to you. As soon as you drink it, you feel like your whole body is full of like bubbles, like you feel like you've become like carbonated, like a soft drink, like all your blood is like carbonated. And as you look at him, the hallucination of the mushrooms like reaches its peak, and everything in the entire room is like made out of like butterflies. So he's still like a wizard in shape, but his whole body is just like covered in butterflies opening and closing their wings. And then the whole office of the wizard with all its weird like globes and maps and charts and crazy things everywhere is all completely covered in butterflies. And they all fly onto you and cover you until you're completely covered in butterflies from head to toe. And then you just kind of black out. And I think maybe we'll stop your session, your private session there as you enter your cocoon of metamorphosis.
Okay, works for me.
All right. Hold on a second.
That was great, though.
Good. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So, change the song. Uzrik Tentacles. Anyways, so now what we have not done at the beginning of this session that we've done in all our other sessions is have the players recap their last session so we can reconfigure mentally where everybody is and what happened. So why don't we start with Callum? Can you tell us what happened in your last World of Darkness session?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Look at my notes here. Okay, so we resumed in the northern part of the city after a tussle with some Brujah Ghoul bikers. We knew of a run-in that Shad had with a guy named Dale, who claimed to be a leader of some level of the Anarch Revolution within the Brujah territory. And coincidentally enough, Lucy knew the location that she rescued Sid from was within this area, so we went there since that was Brujah territory. And we found the house in question. We tried to get in with a doorman who was kind of on guard, but that went south and we had a melee with him. He ended up meeting his death. We tried the doors to simply go in as if we were allowed in, but the door was locked, So Callan snuck around the back with Nash, and Nash was kind of a little bit behind him. When he got toward the backyard, he did run into who happened to be Dale and another man who immediately met him with hostility and had him under drawn weapons. Callan tried to have some words with Dale, trying to convince him that maybe he wasn't an enemy. Dale wasn't really having it and said that if Callan wanted to live, he should leave. So I kind of went back around the corner and pulled out my sword, kind of walking back toward the front in case things got hostile, and kind of let Nash know what was going on. During this time, I believe that Shad started doing some magics and unlocking the door and then starting a fire inside, which caused a lot of chaos. In that chaos, there was some melee that went on in the back with Dale and the other man he was with who had firearms. I had a sword out, and Nash had his claws bearing. And we did dispatch of one of the people immediately back there. A male with the shotgun came from the front, and I think he was wounded badly enough by Nash to flee. And then we ultimately saw Shad burn Dale to a crisp in the backyard in his own personal bonfire, so to speak. Everybody else who was in the home either escaped, ran, or presumably died in the fire. After this, I guess Callan, Lucy, and Nash headed toward the prince to kind of do what's customary and introduce Nash to the prince, since he's new to the Camarilla territory, into the city. And I believe Shad had some other things to take care of, hunting or whatnot. So we did introduce Nash to the prince, kind of shared of the night's escapades, things that had taken place, and the show of force that he had requested, we had essentially delivered on against the Anarchs of the Brujah. He did mention that the Brujah kind of made their bed, and it was a necessary step for us to make this showing, but on the other hand, the murders and the fires kind of cast a bad light on the Camarilla still, to a degree, unfortunately. We were kind of informed that right now the Brujah are not going to be our most pressing problem. The Anarchs can kind of wait another day after this. But the Sabbat activity was growing, and seemed to be some orchestration between them from Arcadia City to the west to come and try to weaken and erode the control over Cascadia City. Let's see, I think I tried to advocate for Shad a little bit in the meeting with the prince, but there was some question of his loyalties and his motives. But I did kind of advocate for him, while also saying that I'm unsure of his entire motivations, but his actions have generally seemed in favor of the Camarilla interests. And then I think I invited Nash back to my domain as we departed.
Thank you. The only thing I'll add to the narrative is there was a gunfight that played out and your character was shot, but I believe he since has healed that damage.
That's right. He was shot through the chest and out the back, and he did have to consume some of his blood points to heal up.
All right, thank you. How about Nash, Westergaard? You have anything to add to the story?
Not really. We continued on the docks, and I drank from a vagrant who was drunk, and then we went to that house where Lucy had rescued Sid. There was a biker guy in black leather in the front. Callan went up and dominated him into silence, and I went up and just slit his throat, quietly one-tapping him, with my gangrel claws. Then, like Callan said, we went over to the side. He saw Dale, and Shad was inside summoning Inferno with his thaumaturgy, and then we got into a little bit of a tussle, with Dale, a shotgun guy, and a pistol guy. Callan was using a sword. I was slashing my cards or with my claws. Lucy was just kind of standing around like usual, and Shad ignited Dale, in like an Inferno. And Callan managed to take off his head as a trophy to bring back to the Prince Govind Singh. And then, Shad encouraged me to go talk to the Prince, and he said, you might as well, you got a trophy. And then, we went and talked to the Prince, and Yeah, they were kind of questioning Shad's motives and loyalties, but that was about the end of it. And then, Callan was inviting me to his domain, and I accepted.
Thank you. And that would leave finally Shad Viano Ferros. Are you able to speak now?
No.
Okay. Well, Shad's story ended in a library underground. Anyone listened to that session knows that, but I suppose we'll come back to him when he is ready to join us. So that being the case, I believe that Nash Westergaard and Kalen Clark had decided to return to Kalen's lair together. Is that correct?
Yep.
Sorry,
All right.
yes, that's correct.
All right. So why don't you describe for us your lair, where you are, Galen?
Yep. So, the exact location, I'm not exactly sure as far as city layout, but just describing it, Callan has a pretty nice domain, the entirety of which is a skyrise, a high-rise. But within that high-rise, there's an unmarked exit that seems like a utility room or floor that the elevator is not marked for, with buttons that you can push to go up. And he gets up there by getting into the elevator and inserting a key, and it takes him to that floor specifically, and it opens up, and it looks like it's about 3 stories worth of the high-rise, and it's his own personal flat. Within his flat, it's kind of got one of the more modern but sharp-cornered, stone-edged kind of decor. Very simple, sleek stone armor of past lives and wars and things like that on the wall, as well as other weapons that kind of seem like trophies or trophies of an era past. And he also has a herd, and in his herd he has currently 3 essentially men who are predators, either sexually or abusers or any kind of thing like that you could imagine. It's kind of the category of guys these are. But I'm going to invite I'm going to invite Nash up, and we'll start role-playing that out a little bit. Nash, if you would, please close your eyes for a moment as we enter my domain. There's some things that are sensitive. I prefer not to have escape even by mistake.
All right, sure, buddy. And I just go ahead and shut my eyes.
Callan will insert his key and take the elevator to his designated flat. And as the doors open, he'll kind of pull Nash in, and he'll just say, "Keep your eyes closed for a moment longer. I know we intend to feed, but once again, my privacy is sensitive to me." And he will go over to a seemingly normal. Okay. He will go over to a seemingly normal wall and kind of look back at Nash to see if he's looking or not. And if he sees that he's not looking, he's going to have this wall seemingly move out of the way. The method of which is not picked up by anybody in there, I don't imagine. But as the wall slides away, a door is revealed, and in that door is a soundproof room where he keeps these men, as they're not there willingly, and they might make some noise that he doesn't want attention from. And I'll say, Nash, if you would, and you'd like to quench your thirst, you can follow me.
Can I open my eyes now?
Yeah, of course, you can open your eyes now. I appreciate the courtesy.
I open my eyes and I go walk over to Callan.
Callan will walk in the room, and there's 3 men in there who are essentially bound to individual beds, and he will say to them, "Tonight is the night of seeing justice done. I hope you have spent your time with me in repentant thought, and have prepared for this moment. Fortunate for you, you were offered this chance at reform prior to perishing. It may have been your only hope." And I'll look at Nash and say, Nash, they won't react kindly to my bite, and they'll react too positively to yours, so I insist that we each bite each man at the same time, in hopes to neutralize any ecstasy that you may provide them. They do not deserve it.
Whoa, man! I didn't know I was giving off vibes like this, but all right.
Excellent. And I think what we'll do is we'll feed 2 points each from each person, leaving them at 6 each.
I just need 5.
Okay, whatever you need then. The goal for me, though, is to get them drained slightly above need for medical attention, but Callan will do something here in a moment, so...
Yeah, you might as well heal up and use the blood. Alright, so we go ahead and do your plan.
Yep.
So you
And then,
simultaneously feed on your herd, and indeed this seems to have a contradictory effect on them, as the simultaneous pain and pleasure of the bite creates a bizarre hybrid sensation of both pleasure and pain.
And for the background on that, my character has Grip of the Damned, which causes fear and terror and things along those lines, as well as pain whenever he feeds upon a human or a mortal or whatever. So generally it would not be the ecstasy that normal vampires would give humans when they give them a bite, which is why he suggested perhaps both at the same time would maybe neutralize that, and at least it would still be an unpleasant bite. Then Callan will look at Nash after we finished feeding, and I'll say, these Horde lot are men with no regard for their own humanity. They've preyed on the innocent, the helpless, the unfortunate. They take innocence with no consideration to anything other than their immediate degenerate whims. They intend to cause harm with no regard for their prey. They are monsters, worse than us even. I offer 2 things: peace for their victims in their absence, and the rare opportunity to consider their wretched state and perhaps repent. They may not deserve such mercy, but for the time they spend with me, they do experience a taste of their own medicine, as my bite causes fear and terror in men. It's a temporal judgment in their case, well deserved, until their Maker calls them to his righteous judgment. And then I'll ask Nash. Nash, would you be willing to help me dispose of these men? I have a few others of interest that I'd like to seek out tonight if you're interested in a hunt.
Well, I suppose it's rude to, eat and not help clean up afterwards. Yeah, sure.
Very good. Callan will pull out the fentanyl doses that he purchased earlier in the evening, and he will give each man who should still be conscious enough to consume these a dose. He will call a personal driver who regularly helps him dispose of these predatory mortals in this way, seemingly dying of drug overdoses, apparently dehydrated and other symptoms included. And the place that he'd like the driver to go tonight is the Cascadia Bay Bridge, where they will seemingly have overdosed together, seemingly looking homeless under the bridge.
Very well. You administer a lethal dose of fentanyl to both individuals, who very quickly go into respiratory depression, stop breathing, and die. And you call up your regular cleaning guy, who arrives promptly, as always, in a nondescript vehicle that he only uses once. And does he come up to your lair to get the bodies, or you bring them out?
We'll bring them down the elevator. Only this time the elevator rear door will open, which leads out into an alleyway where the driver awaits.
All right. We'll assume you also have.
And there was 3 of them, just for the blood pool's sake, just so you know that.
Okay. I'm gonna assume that you also keep some kind of large hunting bags or some kind of body bags that you can put the bodies in. That'll make it easier for you to carry them out.
Right.
And you. Yeah,
Yep.
go ahead.
That's right.
Yeah. So, anyways, you exit the special rear door of the elevator to, I guess, an underground parkade or something that you load the bodies into the trunk of a large vehicle prepared for this purpose. And according to your instructions, your ghoul or your retainer, as the case may be, drops the bodies under the bridge in Cascadia Bay, where they will most likely be interpreted as just another statistic in the ongoing fentanyl crisis in Cascadia City.
Very good. I'll look at Nash and I'll say, Nash, there is a couple of men who I've had my eye on for a while. Just like these men, they prey on the innocent and the weak. One man in particular even preys on one who's close to him that you would think that he should love the most. His own daughter, even. And we are going to head there next, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I don't mind. Let's get these sickos off the street.
Cool. And just for the storyteller, I was presuming that we would ride with the driver, so like I'd be actively involved in getting rid of those who I'd taken as my herd, and allow the driver to take us to the next location.
Very well. So you get into the back seat of the car after loading the bodies into the trunk and drive to the bridge. You dispose of them under cover of darkness. And then get back into the vehicle where the driver awaits your next destination.
I'll tell the driver the address, and it's not a very far drive. He should be able to get there fairly quickly.
Okay. You take a relatively uneventful detour through some back lanes in order to arrive unobtrusively at your destination. And you park. He parks the car within eyeshot of the home or apartment that you're looking for.
As we pull up, I'll look at Nash and I'll say, Nash, keep the claws inside for a moment. I always attempt to use the chisel before I attempt to use the hammer. Yeah, if it comes down to it, though, force may be necessary in this instance. But I will try to make a uneventful capturing of this individual. Hopefully, even willing.
Anything you say, Warden.
Then I'll kind of motion to him with my head. We'll kind of nod toward the window and towards the door of the house, and I'll hop out.
Okay, and sorry, can you repeat for me the details of who you're looking for?
Yep, so this is a guy named Mr. Ganda, as I know him. He is someone that Callan has identified as a child abuser, seemingly, who managed to slip out of a prosecution charge for child abuse. However, as Callan has watched this man, he realized he was not only abusing to harm, but sexually abusing his own daughter. So Callan is going to see to it that this guy gets the justice that he's due, that the system has failed to deliver.
Mr. Gand?
Mr. Ganda.
Ganda. Very well. So you approach this house. The lights are on inside, and although the curtains are partially drawn, you can see the flicker of a television and some cigarette smoke hanging in the air.
Very good. I'm going to go up and just knock on the door a couple times in hopes that Mr. Ganda will answer.
You hear us from inside. You can hear some, what the fuck? And then get to their feet and then kind of like stumble and then come to the door and it opens it. The man's wearing like a white whatever you call him, white muscle shirt, right? And he's kind of like a skinny, Caucasian guy, I guess. He's wearing kind of scuffed up jeans and you can smell alcohol on his breath. And he says, "Who the fuck are you and what do you want?"
I'm gonna make a roll to attempt to mesmerize, and for the listeners again, mesmerize essentially allows a vampire to verbally implant a false thought or like a hypnotic suggestion in the subconscious's mind, or in the subject's subconscious mind. Excuse me. Both the kindred who's attempting it and the target must be free from distraction, and this works best if the implanted memory or thought or suggestion is fairly specific rather than vague. So with that in mind, I'm going to try to make a roll. The difficulty will equal the target's current willpower points. So it's up to you to decide.
Can you repeat that last thing you said? Sorry.
Yep, the difficulty will be equal to the target's current willpower points.
All right. Well, we'll assume that's relatively low. This is a dissolute individual with low willpower. So difficulty will be like 4 because he's like drunk and weak-willed.
Alright, I'm going to make that roll real quick. Okay, 2 great successes, 3 additional successes. So 7.
So you make strong, forceful eye contact and speak in a commanding voice, or whatever, and you enact your vitae given gift of mesmerize. And as he looks into your eyes, his eyes take on kind of like a glassy sheen, where he looks kind of like zombified.
Yep, I'm going to say, Mr. Ganda, Callan Clark, I'm sure you recall me. We met at our daughter's school. I'm Nicole's father. Our daughters are friends. You agreed to come over and play poker with me tonight so that we could be acquainted before our girls spend time at each other's homes. I'm here to pick you up.
Okay. Well, he's completely hypnotized, so he just kind of like, stumbles forward and like looks at you with like his glassy stare, but he seems to be compliant.
I'll reach in and shut off the lights to his house and lock the knob to the inside of the house and shut the door as he comes out, and I'll gesture him back to the vehicle that we've got.
Okay. So you put him in, I guess, maybe the passenger's seat in the front, or in the back seat.
Yeah, he can sit up front on the other side of the privacy window if you'd like.
All right. So he looks visibly confused, like he doesn't really know what he's doing or why, but he nevertheless complies with you when you tell him to get into the passenger seat of the vehicle.
I'll look at Nash and I'll say, that went better than I hoped. Sometimes it doesn't work out quite so easily, and like I said, the hammer becomes a necessity. It seems as though this evening may not be as eventful as I hoped as far as a hunt, but this is my method. Hopefully, trying to maintain the masquerade, we don't want to draw too much attention, so it worked out good for us this time. There is another man, however, that I've previously encountered. I've seen him drugging young women and men in public, and he's been seen leaving with them. I've followed this man as well on a few occasions, and I've witnessed what he does to these unwilling souls. I've already mesmerized this man in the past at a bar, and he presumes now that we're old friends that have future plans the next time that we are to meet. He should come with us willingly, as this man did, as you've seen, and I'll give the driver the address that we might head there.
So just an out-of-character question, like, is there like a duration on mesmerize, or is it supposed to be like somehow permanent?
Let me see here. Well, as it can kind of implant a hypnotic or a false thought. Let's see here. The vampire may activate the imposed thought immediately or establish a stimulus that will trigger it later, is what the rules say.
Okay.
So essentially, this guy thinks it's at our next meeting that it should kick in then, basically.
All right. But as you're describing what you're saying, the man in the front kind of like looks around, because you're talking about like going to pick up this other guy, and he kind of looks around with a little bit more like alarm and confusion in his expression, like, because what you're saying doesn't match what you told him about the poker game, but he's still like in the state of mesmerism, so he's not completely snapped out of it, but he's becoming a little agitated.
Yeah, I'll say, Mr. Gand, don't worry. This is just another fellow for the poker game. 4 makes sense. 3, we could tilt the odds in our favor. We want to be fair to everybody.
He seems to like nod his head vacantly, but doesn't really seem to understand what you're saying.
I'm scratching my head at how you're doing all this, but I whisper to you, like, do you think maybe you should have, put handcuffs on him or, muzzled him?
I'll just say, he'll be okay for now. If it becomes necessary, trust me, between the two of us, got enough ability to restrain him, I promise you. He seemed like he was drunk when we arrived anyway. Shouldn't be much of a challenge.
So as you guys are like having this whispered conversation, your driver, who's like experienced to this kind of thing, like turns up the radio quite loud so that the guy in the front seat can't hear what you're saying as easily.
Very good. Yeah, we'll go to. I'll give the driver the second address, and invite Nash back inside the vehicle.
All right.
So the driver peels away from the now dark house of Mr. Ganda, and takes you to another part of town not so far away. Takes you maybe 20 minutes to get there, during which time the driver kind of reassures the man in the passenger seat a few times, And anyways, you arrive at the next destination shortly afterwards.
Very good. Well, I'll hop out and look at Nash. You could come along if you'd like. This should be very similar to the last case, with even less suggestion, presumably. He does
I get
live
out.
alone.
Sorry. Continue.
Yeah, you're good. Yep. I'll just say he does live alone.
I get out and I kind of look at what kind of neighborhood we are and look up and down the street, see if anyone's coming or going.
Is there any particular information about what kind of neighborhood this man would live in, or should I just fill in the details?
We do know that he's got access to drugs, as he's been seen drugging young women and men in public. So you can build whatever you want around that. If it helps that out.
All right. Well, we'll assume you're in a relatively rougher part of the city. More urban. I'm not sure what the word is. Decay in this area, graffiti on the walls, litter and used needles on the streets, and so forth, and relatively low-income housing. So you come to a house that has like a broke-down, car in front of it that's like missing a wheel, and there's like empty beer cans on the lawn.
Very good. I'll kind of walk up towards the property and kicking cans out of the way and expressing some disgust with the pitiful state of this environment, being a Ventrue and essentially living among the high class in most cases, having some disdain for those who don't care for themselves or their property. And I will go and knock on the door, expecting to find Zach Rostel, who I've previously encountered in public, clubs and such, trying to take advantage of those unwilling souls we mentioned earlier with drugs and illicit substances.
Very well. So you knock on the door, and a few moments later, Zach Rostel opens the door. Zachariah, I guess, is his birth name, and we'll say that this man is of African American descent, and he is wearing like a button-up shirt, just nondescript blue shirt, also wearing jeans. He answers the door and seems to recognize you from your past meeting and says, Galen.
Zach, good to see you. As you recall, and he'll snap his fingers, we had plans together this evening. Do you recall that?
When you snap your fingers, you trigger the psychic Pavlovian response that was previously implanted, and his eyes go in a similar way, kind of glazed over, and he nods and he says, "Oh yes, of course, yeah, we made plans." He says, "I don't know how I forgot."
Right, well, our driver is just outside. Perhaps lock up and let's be on our way.
So he seems kind of to hesitate for a moment, like he's unsure, but then he kind of puts on his shoes and locks his door from the outside with the key and follows you.
Very good. I'll lead him back to the vehicle as well. He'll be seated in the back with us.
Very well. You gonna put him in the middle or the side seat?
He can be between the both of us.
All right. So his look of discomfort or uncertainty seems to intensify somewhat as he sits in the middle between you and Nash. But he sits down as you indicate that he should do, and you step into the car and close the door behind you.
I'll look at Nash and I'll say, Nash, meet Zach Rostel. We've met at a bar in the past. Zach, this is Nash.
I go ahead and, shake his hand or put out my hand.
He reaches forward, like still in a kind of dazed state, but he shakes your hand and kind of nods and says, "Nice to meet you."
I just nod.
I'll have the driver just take us back to my domain so I can bring these guys up and secure them and see if Nash had any plans for the evening that he wanted to carry out, or if he needed help with anything since he's been so helpful to me.
Well, so hold on. So you take them on the elevator up to your lair, into your apartment, right?
Yep.
Okay. So they follow you up to the elevator, right? Thinking you're going to play this poker game, and into your lair, right? And in what way do you welcome them into your lair? And do you let them sit down? What do you do?
I invite them in and I say, the poker table is just this way, and that false wall is still slid back from when we left earlier, and the door's there. And as they both go in, I'll kind of nod to Nash, and I will attempt to strike one of them in the back of the neck to knock them out, so that I can get them strapped into place.
All right. So I guess what we'll do is, as as they walk into the room, which is clearly not like a poker room, they become kind of alarmed, and one of them goes, "Wait a minute," and then the other guy's like, "Oh, hold on a second," and then you attempt to attack one of them with a strike, and we'll say because they're dazed and drugged. And you rolled 2 critical successes and a success that you managed to strike one of them. Which of the 2 do you strike?
We'll strike Zach because he did not seem like he was drunk when I arrived.
Okay, and you're doing what exactly? Punching him?
I'm just like striking him, kind of in the base of the rear of his neck to kind of knock him unconscious.
With like a punch.
Yeah, essentially. Yep.
Okay. Well, you land the punch directly on his brainstem where the neck meets the skull. So go ahead and roll your damage, I guess, which is your strength plus your successes.
Non-lethal.
Yeah, it's non-lethal. This is just an attempt to render unconscious.
Is that a thing in this, Shogun? Can we say it is?
Yeah, he's just punching him in the back of the head, trying to knock him out.
It was strength plus what?
Well, plus brawl, I guess, if you have it. But also, I think the way we were playing last session was that we were adding successes on the hit dice to the damage dice. I'm not sure if that's rules is written.
Oh, that's right. It's just strength. You're right.
Were you doing just a strike? So it's Dex plus brawl, and then it'll be a D6. And then the damage will be your strength.
Dex, brawl, Dex. 3, 4, 7. Difficulty is 6.
Mm-hmm.
And then the damage will be whatever your strength is.
0 successes.
All right, so you hit him, but because he had sort of started to react and he kind of moved somewhat out of the way, the force doesn't land with the intended blow. The blow doesn't land with the intended force. And what it does do is snap him out of his state of mesmerism, as well as the other individual. And so they both turn and attempt to defend themselves by desperately grappling with you. So I guess we'll do an initiative roll. And Nash can roll as well.
Okay.
Yep.
And so I'm going to roll 2 dice. The first will be for Zach, and the second will be for Ganda.
I got 12.
So they rolled 6 and 9, and it's Dex plus Wits. So we're just going to assume these guys both have a Dexterity of 2 and a Wits of 2, which gives them a roll of 10 and 18. So we're going to say Zach gets 10. Ganda gets 18. Or I think 18 is 9 plus 4. That's not 18 at all. That's 13. That's how good I am at math.
I got a 9.
All right.
But I went first anyway, so that kind of makes sense. So.
Yeah, because they were in a state of mesmerism. So you got initiative of 12. Ganda got an initiative of 13, so Ganda is going to attempt to strike with a punch to the face Halen Clark. So I will use the proper dice roller, and he's going to be rolling Dexterity plus Brawl, so that'll give him a whopping dice pool of, we'll say, 3, with a difficulty of 6. So he manages to punch you in the face, and we'll see what damage he does with that.
4 damage.
Yeah, because it's strength plus 1, or just strength?
Yeah, it's just strength for a strike, so whatever
Strength
his strength
plus
was.
successes. Yeah.
So he's just going to roll a dice pool of 2.
And if he was hit in the head, it should have been a higher difficulty, but don't worry about it.
Yeah, whatever. So difficulty 6, I guess, is the default here. So he punches you in the face, but does no more damage to you than you did to him. And then the move passes to Nash as you easily absorb the punch.
I'm gonna grab whichever one's close to me. I'm gonna try to put him in a hold.
Okay, so go ahead and roll like dexterity plus brawl, or I guess.
Yeah, and I was just looking at it, and now I've already lost it again. Yeah, a hold is strength plus brawl, which is 8. So let me roll. 4 successes.
Whoops, what's this? How much stuff did you put on the freaking bot? You freaking weirdo, dude.
What is going on?
Shad put on like 1,000 songs.
Did you succeed, Nolo?
Yeah, I had 4 successes.
All right. While you do that, I'm going to say the restraints on the bed.
Well, I've got him held for now, so I don't know what you're gonna do.
Okay, so Nash grabs and restrains who?
Whichever one was closer to me. Probably the other guy that.
Okay, so I think we said Zach was the one who punched you, so you grab Mr. Ganda and restrain him with like a hold.
Yeah.
Sort of like a wrestling upper body like headlock.
Yeah. What you do, you go back, triangle behind their head and all that. You know how it is.
He was the
There you
drunk
go.
one anyway. It should be pretty easy.
Yeah, and I had 4 successes, so I lock him down.
Yeah, he struggles ineffectually, cursing and swearing frantically. So the action goes back to Kalen.
Wait a minute, what's the roll for grapple or hold or whatever it's called?
I guess is it either dexterity plus brawl or strength plus brawl? I guess I'm not sure which.
For hold it's strength plus strength. Yeah, that way.
Strength and brawl. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
All right,
sir.
let me
Difficult
try
to stick generally.
That off. Nice. Cool. Strength and brawl. That's difficulty is 7 or 6. Sorry, 6. All right. 2 critical failures, 2 critical successes. Additionally, just 2 regular successes.
Okay, so you managed to grab a hold of him by his clothes and then sort of grab him by the belt on the back of his jeans to get a grip on him.
What I would like to do is with that grapple hold, get him strapped to the bed essentially in the restraints or whatever.
All right, so just roll strength plus brawl in order to wrestle him into the restraints.
Strength plus brawl. Strength. Brawl. Let's not again. 5 successes. Oh, that's a lot of good. That's 3 critical successes. Yeah.
Okay, so he attempts to resist, but you easily overpower him, and it is not difficult for you to forcibly hold him down and strap him to your restraints. He's like panicking and practically frothing at the mouth, but he's also quite weak.
Very good. That's my turn.
Yeah, so you have one of them strapped down and the other one in a restraint.
Is it Nolo's turn now, or?
It is, yeah. Because the other guy, he can try and resist, I suppose, but...
Yeah, it's resist action. We will roll against each other for strength and brawl if you want to do that, just to make it fair as squares.
Yeah, I'm just counting these guys as completely ordinary people with no training in martial arts, so he's only going to roll 2 for strength. But he did roll 2 successes.
Four successes.
So he resists with all his strength, but you are much stronger than him and able to force him into the other restraint and strap him down. Both of them are screaming and cursing bloody murder, but the room is largely soundproofed. In any case, you've successfully captured and restrained your prey.
I say to Callan, you run a pretty smooth operation here, except for, a little messy on the end. You might want to get some horse trank or, some handcuffs or some, ball gags or something for the last part there, bud.
Yeah, unfortunately, I used all the fentanyl I'd purchased on the last guys.
Just a little dabble, do you? I kind of nod
That's right. And now I'll look to address the guys we just captured, since they're both at least conscious and have not stayed under the mesmerization. And I'll say, Know this, you are here because of your own conscious decisions. To harm innocents and to take advantage of the helpless. Consider this time both a temporal justice and a chance to make yourself right with your maker before your expiration. And I will bite them both, not to feed, but just to let them experience the terror that comes with Callan's bite.
So they're like screaming, no, you can't do this. This isn't right. You're not a cop, blah, blah, blah. And they're screaming and making excuses. But you bite the first guy, Mr. Ganda, and he starts, screaming and thrashing around as you bite him, which causes the other guy, Zachary, to become even more terrified and strain against his own restraints. But he's unable to escape. And after however long you bite the first individual, you repeat the process and inflict the same pain and fear on Zachary, who also thrashes and screams. But
I'll lick the wounds and let them heal up. I say, for now you'll be fed, but consider what you've just felt is but a taste of what you've inflicted on your victims continually. And then I'll shut and lock the door.
Wait, before you leave and shut and lock the door, I say to them, you're right, he's not a cop. He's the warden. And then you shut and lock the door.
Yep, that'll work.
all right, so you seal your two new prey or herd into their confinement and their unenviable fates. Shall we pause here, perhaps? Shad, are you wanting to play, or do you want to sit out this session?
I'm cool with either.
Well, if you're available to play, we can give you a little bit of time.
Pretty cool.
Sure.
All right, so at the end of your last session, why don't you describe what happened?
I had left the party on their way to their meeting with the prince, jumping off of the back of Nash's Westergaard's motorcycle at a red light and disappearing into the darkness. Later, I was on a bus zooming through the countryside with the dark green of the moonlight reflected countryside whizzing by me until I stopped at a campus and got off the bus. Walked across the stony campus, descending granite stairs into an underground library, which I opened with a thick iron key. Taking one step through the door, I popped my frock, stood up and took a deep breath and said, "Finally, time to stay with my notes."
Right. So you enter the dark library lit with candlelight, which stretches off as far as you can see from the door. Dark mahogany bookshelves covered in leather-bound tomes, and as you enter and say this, a strange small figure wearing a cloak, only about maybe 4 feet tall, 3.5 feet tall, wearing a little brown robe that completely conceals it, and its face is just shadows underneath the hood. But he kind of beckons to you and is holding a candle, and you follow the candlelight and your guide through the library, taking turns through the various, bookshelves, until you arrive at a particular section, and the small figure sort of lifts up the candle, illuminating the spines of the books, allowing you to see the titles there.
And I pour in almost ravenous hunger through the titles, searching for anything that I can find about the Book of Nod, Path of Cain, and one not so often spoken about form of magic that's a source of fear to the Sabbat, called the Path of the Father's Vengeance, which is rarely spoken about due to its significant impact in hurting vampires.
All right, so why don't we have you roll a dice roll, which can be occult plus investigation or something along those lines that also might make sense.
All right, I'll roll that. What's the DC? 6?
Yeah, sure, 6.
I feel like this thing just changed a lot. Oh, I'm not in the roll thing. 1 second. It's slash dice, right?
Yeah, slash dice roll.
All right, 2 successes. They were successes.
2 successes, eh? Hold on a
2
second.
great successes. It was
Okay,
2
hold
great
on.
successes, 1 success, and a critical fail.
Okay, I just got to put on some non-lyrical music here. If I can. I don't know how many of these songs you queued up. Okay, sorry. So what did you roll?
2 great successes.
Okay. So it seems that this figure has anticipated what you were seeking and led you to the particular tome that you had hoped to find, which you recognize with your combination of occult knowledge and Tremere initiation as a text that deals with some of the more esoteric aspects of thaumaturgy. And leaping through it, you manage to identify a section that says something about wrath or judgment of the fathers or something along those lines. You feel you'll need more time to examine the text, but you believe that this is possibly what you're looking for. And you take that book off the shelf and you continue to look. And you also find another book, which seems to be some kind of compilation of apocryphal texts, which do describe something about the path of Cain, and you recognize some biblical verses as well as large sections of text that are not familiar to you, and the book is written in Latin.
A smile curls on my lip as I pull the book off the shelf slowly and reverently dust off the cover. Dude, quit fucking with the bot.
Well, gee, you put on all this crazy music. There we go. Go ahead.
And my lip curls as I smile and look over at the shadowy figure. I give a deep bow in thanks and look around the dark library and its many seemingly endless halls in the dim-lit underground.
So you continue to explore. You're just exploring the library?
Yes.
All right. Well, it seems to be an extremely extensive library, as Mrs. Sandrosia promised you. And so there are texts on all manner of subjects, a lot of historical archives, occult and esoteric texts, and a lot of theological stuff, some of which seems to be from an inverted or sort of satanic nature. Some of it isn't, but some of it seems to have, unsettling glyphs and unsettling, disturbing runes on the books, some of which you recognize as Sabbat iconography, others you don't recognize, but they give you sort of like a nauseous feeling and even a bit of a headache when you look at them, almost like some of the letters are like squirming or moving on one particular text in particular that kind of gets your attention. It's like a green leather of sorts, and it has like a very unearthly looking language on the spine, and you're not sure what this book is, but it holds a strange fascination, kind of draws your eye.
I pause and glance around. Really for no reason. It's as quiet as the grave here. I go to the book and again slowly pull it off the shelf and reverently look at its cover and begin to flip through its pages.
So on the cover, in place of any words that you can read, like a title, there is a very elaborate occult glyph that is roughly arranged in a circle, but it has a very unwholesome aspect to it. You can't quite put your finger on it, but it almost seems to just like bend and move, and it's got a ominous look to it. And when you flip through the pages, you are greeted by all manner of disturbing images. Seems to depict like gruesome tortures, strange dark rituals, people dressed with like strange black cloaks and goat heads, and there's a picture of a witch kissing the devil's behind and other things of this nature. So this appears to be some kind of dark occult tome dealing with infernal and diabolic subjects.
Given that it caught my attention and I tend to trust my instinct, I moved to put this book along with the other in my backpack.
So as you put the third book in your backpack, the small figure with the hooded cloak kind of gestures at you and begins like retreating back around the corner with its little candle lantern in its hand.
I follow, not closely, but just enough to poke my head around the corner and see where he's moving to.
All right, so there is sort of like a little study type area here with like a desk and some chairs in the library, and there's a candle burning on the desk, and then there's also the door that you entered not too far from here.
Okay, well, I'll sit down and flip through these books, noting their title and some of the introductory passages, and just from a quick skimming, and I'll also expend a blood point to increase my intelligence as I do this. I'm going to take as many notes as I can.
Okay. So you take some vellum or some paper, either from inside the desk where you can find some, or from your bag, and you get out a pen and begin frantically copying notes and pouring through the various books. So I guess go ahead and roll like intelligence plus occult.
All right. I don't know why I'm having such a difficult time with this time. Difficulty. So, yeah.
Go ahead
9
and make the
successes. 2 of them are great successes.
Okay. So with the vitae that you expended cycling through your brain and increasing your synaptic activity, combined with your eagerness for the subject and your excitement at finally having time to pursue your studies, you pour through the books, and the atmosphere of the silent library is very conducive to your concentration. And so you make a lot of headway in translating some of the various pages of the notes and identifying some of the various images and starting to put the pieces together. And you deduce that you have found 3 tomes, all of which are of interest to you. The first one is The Path of the Righteous Fathers, or the Judgment. It translates into The Judgment of the Righteous Fathers. And when you read it, you realize with excitement that this is precisely what you were seeking, being a thaumaturgical exposition on the path of... What's it called again?
Thaumaturgy?
Well, the particular branch of it, though.
Path of Father's Vengeance.
Path of Father's Vengeance. So you deduce that although the title is not exactly the same, it's similar enough that this is probably describing what you're looking for. It's called Judgment of the Righteous Fathers. And it describes in detail both the theoretical and practical aspects of the discipline of thaumaturgy that you're attempting to learn. So you take as many notes as you can from that, but you also take a look at the second book, and the second book seems to contain a lot of aspects from the Dead Sea Scrolls and old translations of the Bible that you recognize, but included are various apocryphal stories about Cain and his wanderings after he left the Garden of Eden and was cast out into the land of Nod. And you realize with excitement that some of these fragments are parts of the Book of Nod, but put in their proper context alongside the relevant context of the biblical narrative. So it's like you sense that what you're reading is a uncensored version of what is publicly available in the Bible that includes more details about what's called the seed of the serpent and the seed of Cain and the path of Cain. And you make notes about this. And that it details something about Cain meeting a character called Lilith, which is a name that you recognize, and a familiar apocryphal story about Cain encountering Lilith after his exile from Eden and being taught how to feed on blood by Lilith in a cave as a way to survive after being cast out and given the mark of Cain. That's what you're able to deduce from your first pass over of this book. The third book, however, is an entirely different story, because the letters and the languages don't even bear any resemblance to any English language or language that you've ever seen. These look like strange, asymmetrical, uncanny, ugly symbols that make your head kind of swim and make you feel dizzy when you look at them. And you could almost swear some of the disturbing images are moving and changing and so forth, and you're not able to figure out exactly what this book is. But the more you study it, the more you have a strange feeling that you're being watched, almost like the book itself is looking back at you. It has a lot of weird depictions of entities that look like they have tentacles or otherwise covered in eyes. It's very unearthly imagery.
As I get this uneasy feeling, I turn towards the dark hooded figure. Is he still nearby?
Yeah, he's just standing sort of at the edge of the last bookshelf, looking in your direction. You can't see his face or his eyes. It's just a dark hooded shadow under a cowl, but he's just standing there completely still, holding the small glass lantern that has a candle burning inside of it. And he just seems to be watching you with patience.
I called to him, "Curator, may I borrow these only for a fortnight, at max?"
The figure pauses for a brief moment and then simply inclines its head slightly in what you interpret to be an affirmatory nod.
"Thank you," I say as I methodically compile my notes and pack them in such a way that they won't get injured in a move. I even take my tie off and help some of the loose leaf papers stay crisp, making sure they won't ruffle against anything else in the bag. Thank the curator with a deep bow and walk slowly and coldly back up the steps, across the campus, and onto the bus, back to G City.
All right. And what do you think about keeping it short and sweet and leaving it with that? Or do you want to play more?
There was
Okay.
one more scene that I'd like to play out.
All right.
Since Callan's here.
So you get back into
So on my way-
Go ahead.
On my way back, I'm just going to text Callan and say, "I need to meet you. It must be private."
And this is your...
I'll notice that I've gotten a text, and I'll pull it out and kind of look at it, read it, but not really express anything since Nash is in my company. And I'll tell Nash, hopefully you've had your fill this evening and your thirst has been satisfied. We really appreciated your help with the Bruja. For now, it seems as though I may have to make some arrangements. You're free to stay, or you can let yourself out.
So just to be clear, you're returning to G City on the intercity bus line?
Yes.
Okay. Are you there, Nash? All right. Well, Nash may or may not be there. Can you, as you're driving or riding back to Cascadia City through the boreal forest that covers much of the province of Cascadia, roll an alertness plus perception check or perception plus awareness.
I'll respond to the text also beforehand and say, where should we meet?
Another quick response. You decide. It must be secure.
Yeah.
I'll think about that while he does his rolls.
Okay.
Two successes.
What is your roll for your successes?
7s.
Okay. So as your phone buzzes or whatever with the response, the last response from Callan, you something catches your attention out of the corner of your eye, and you look up, and as the bus is driving by quite quickly, you see something in the woods standing back out of the light, such as it is at night. It's fairly dark anyways, and you're not sure what you see, but it catches you by surprise. It's something very large, very heavily built, standing about 8 foot tall on 2 legs, and you get a brief glimpse of a shaggy bipedal creature, very heavily muscled, kind of standing, and you're not sure because it goes by so quickly if it was just your imagination, but you think you catch the gleam of 2 eyes briefly reflecting as you pass by. And you get
That's
the
the
impression
second
that
time.
it's watching either you or the bus.
That's the second time, I muttered to myself. I hate to think what the woods in this city hold. Who knows what the wilds have become in the years I've been with the Ivory Tower. Nonetheless, masquerades hold the cities. I say in my head as I look back to the phone.
I'll send him a text and I'll say, meet me at the switch yard, which is like a power distribution area that's usually automated and unmanned, gated, and then has a blockhouse, which is a container that controls all the switching mechanisms. Typically, there's no one in those places unless there's something drastically wrong with the power grid,
Okay.
wherever that may be.
So Callan sends you a location in a electrical system grid installation, which is marked on your GPS on your phone. Anyways, it's not too long. You kind of reflect on what you've read and think about the books that you've recovered, and very quickly you arrive back at Cascadia City, which is not far from Arcadia, which you've just left. So you get an almost palpable feeling of crossing an invisible barrier or border as you enter the city, and the kind of energy of the city combined with your awareness of the political domains, you can almost feel it like a predator straying into another predator's territory, that you're back in Camarilla domain, and that you're let off beside the Cascadia City campus where the Greyhound bus service is.
I get off the bus and inhale the crisp night air, and again walk on foot with my staff and my backpack towards the power distribution center.
So the power distribution center is very brightly lit, but you can see that it's also uninhabited, except for the shadowy figure of Callan Clark standing, in front of this block-like building. I'm just assuming that you're there already.
That's fine.
So I approach the figure, and I get very close before I say a word, and then quietly whisper, "Are you sure this place is secure?"
Callan will say, "Good Lord, mate, you've got to warn somebody when you're sneaking up on them like that. Yes, it's secure, and typically no one comes here unless there's a major catastrophe and things seem like they're fine. What is it you need to meet about?"
How was your meeting with the prince?
The meeting went well. We made introductions of Nash. For obvious reasons, some of your activities. The prince still has some concerns about you. I have tried to advocate for you some, though I will admit I'm not entirely sure of your motives, but it seems as though in most cases you do what's necessary to serve the Ivory Tower's interests. So I relayed that, and I did my best to advocate for you in your absence, though that itself drew some suspicion.
Thank you. You seem loyal, and that's a rare breed amongst the Camarilla. Who I do not trust is just about everybody else. The prince and the sheriff and the rest of the Ivory Tower may disagree with my methods, but one thing I can guarantee is that if I'm successful, they will not disagree with my results. I'm sorry to be so cloak and dagger, but I have a request.
Very well. What's your request?
I need your blood.
And might I ask what you might use it for? Not that I'm necessarily objecting immediately.
I'll drink it.
You wish to drink my blood?
Yes.
And for no reason at all? Is there a motive behind this?
Of course.
He's going to look at Shad a little bit puzzled and kind of hesitant, but not unwilling, just curious.
But telling you the reason could endanger both of us. I'll have to ask you to trust me. And what could it harm? I will be your ghoul.
You wish to be my ghoul?
I nod.
Just a quick correction of sorts. You won't be his ghoul because you're already a full-blooded kindred, but you will be blood-bound to him to the first level of blood bond that exists.
You wish to be bloodbound to me?
I do.
Very well. I do see that this could be useful, and just for clarification's sake and for transparency here, though I do serve the prince's interests in most cases, and I have connections with the sheriff that is a mutual benefit. He helps me as well in delicate matters pertaining to my herd specifically. I do have my own motives, and while I am loyal, the loyalty does serve a purpose for me as well. I'm not without my ambitions. Are you sure you still wish to become bloodbound to me?
It's a calculated risk, and I'd love to hear more of it sometime. I understand that we have a similar level of generation, and perhaps even a similar path. But for now, I need to ask this one thing, and then be on my way.
Very well. I will do this under one condition, that you will have a level of transparency with me, perhaps more than the others, but obviously this would be discreet and kept between us, as well as this interaction. I don't take lightly to giving my blood out, but I do think that we may share a similar path, and we are of a similar generation. I think an alliance between us might be beneficial, and this would be first steps to have that personally solidified.
Well, I can give
pull
you some level of transparency. I'm researching in earnest and in depth these prophecies about Gehenna. I used to not believe them, but now I don't know what to think. Suffice to say that this type of research puts me in grave danger.
Very well. Well, if you would, just let me know what you find, because I take an interest in that as well. Although I am a twisted being at this point in time, I did once, as a man and a mortal, serve our Lord, and in a way I feel I still attempt to, and that directly relates to Gehenna and what might lie ahead. I'll just pull out my sword from my trench coat and make a slit in my wrist and offer it to Shad's character.
I humbly bow my head and drink 1 point of blood. Wiping my mouth, I stand erect once again and say, "You mentioned our Lord. You're referring to the Nazarene?"
That's right, the very same. I did serve under King Richard I, and I did take part in the Third Crusades, and a time before that. I was involved in other crusades as well, but That is where I ultimately, on the battlefield, lay dying, was saved by my sire, and became this existence you see before you.
I see. Then we are more similar than perhaps even I thought. I come from a time before this Nazarene and his cult flooded the world with their teachings. I was a priest of Jupiter and also was turned on the battlefield in a battle against Easterners under Pashur II.
Very
That
well.
was a
Then
long time ago. And I didn't get to watch the spreading of these teachings as I fell into torpor for centuries.
Very well. I will share with you sometime what I learned as a man and what I've learned as this creature that was thrust upon me, this existence, which was my bane for some time. I'd be happy to share with you if you've been lacking in that bit of research. I think I may be of some use.
I haven't spent much time investigating, but I would
Very
like
well.
to know more. Yet
Very well.
there's
Yes,
something
we
else
can
I need-
arrange that.
Yet there's something else I need you to share with me.
Well, spit it out.
I point to your arm and say more.
Another. Well, seeing as I haven't sealed it yet, I offer the wrist again. And as I'm offering it, I will say, it does seem as though we are kindred in more ways than one, considering we both died fighting against Easterners in pursuits of our loyalties to our deity.
I take a moment to draw out another point of blood, swallow and wipe my mouth and say, yes, I fought for the glory of Rome and the old gods, which, when I awoke from my torpor, have all but disappeared. It
Yes,
seems
many of,
yours is the last remaining.
yes, many of your Romans did turn to my god, rightfully so. They had good reason to do so. I think over time you might see that as well is a reasonable thing to do. Pleased to know, though, that there is some honor among your principles that I may have been previously unaware of, and this we share.
I nod.
So, as you feed twice, the first time that you feed, you feel an increase in empathy and trust towards and respect towards the character of Kaelin Clark. And when you feed the second time, that sense of kindredship and some kind of bond being established grows stronger. It's like a noticeable sensation.
I just want to, not to disrupt the flow, but to Rule's lawyer, Shad is a Tremere, so the first time he drinks, he actually goes to the second drink level. And also, the blood bond has to be done over 3 nights. You can't do it all in one night. So he would be
thanks
on
for seeing what the rules of the game. I appreciate
Yep,
it.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
We can, I mean,
Okay,
I mean,
then
the
let me
storyteller can rule
let me
anything
just-
he wants.
let
You
me
can say
just-
you're
So
at
you're-
3 now.
So you're saying that because the rules are a certain way, the outcome is exactly what we're trying to do, but you need to get.
All right, so let's.
Oh, I
retcon
didn't know
real-
if you were
let's
trying to go for
retcon
the third one.
Let's retcon for Nilla real quick. I take the bags that you pre-prepared from your seeming satchel, and I'll say, I can't feed you the rest here, but take these bags, and you know what to do over the next couple of nights.
Bags?
Yeah, blood bags.
I don't have anything because I just drank the blood from it.
All right, very good. Whatever. Sorry, Noel, you suck. All right.
All right, just clip that out. Whoever's editing, just clip that whole section out. So, okay, so I'm second blood bonded to you, as you were explaining, to Callan, as you were explaining, Shogun.
Very good.
Yeah.
And I say, thank you for your trust. I'm interested to hear more about these teachings that I suppose you've walked away from, or maybe not in full. Yet, I must warn you of one more thing. The Camarilla is not so weak as it may seem. When these moments of chaos occur, there's usually a changing of the guard Be on your toes for those looking to spill your blood, and those looking to rise in power in G City. I suspect many of them are close to me.
Yes, I'm always keeping my eyes peeled for changes in attitude and demeanor of those that I am acquainted with occasionally. I am suspicious, as is my nature, which is why I am an investigator in most, at least to the common eye. But I'll take your advice under consideration, and I'll be aware of those around me in case this does take place, regrettably.
I nod, and without another word, slip into the night.
All right. Fantastic. How do you guys feel about stopping there?
Yeah, sounds good.
Perfect.
And now I'm going to go off for an hour and do my own adventure. No, I'm teasing you. That's
I'm
good.
so sorry, dude. I'm so sorry.
Well, I want to thank all the players. I feel like everyone went above and beyond with role playing and details and adding to the story. So that's really great. So, I mean, I guess 7 points is supposed to be the max that's recommended. So give yourself 7 points of experience. I would say 8 just for the hell of it. That was a longer session and people added a lot of backstory and so forth. I don't think it'll hurt the balance of the game to give you 8 points.
Sweet, thank you. Appreciate you, DM.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it too. I love it.
Yeah, thanks guys. I'm having a lot of fun with this and I'm glad you're enjoying it as well. I think this is already like session number 15 and there's quite a few people listening along on YouTube and BitChute. So make sure if you're listening to this, you subscribe to our channels, Temple Mount Official, and join the Temple Mount Discord server. Good night and God bless.